Now, it's expected to be another action-packed weekend at the box office. Sonic the Hedgehog and Michael Bay's Ambulance are in the race for #1 spot. Sean Robbins is the senior media at Box Office Pro, joining us now for a box office preview. Thank you for being here. Spider-Man spinoff Morbius opened last weekend, collecting $39 million. How does it compare to other comic book movies that have been released throughout the pandemic?
Well, it's certainly on the lower end, I think, if we compare it to the big takers, but it's also a movie not made for Spider-Man money. There was never any expectation that Morbius would perform at that level. But it still is on the softer side. A lot of that is because of reviews and word of mouth, unfortunately, haven't been as strong as comic book movies typically are. This is also a movie produced outside of Marvel Studios and Disney. It's Sony's own. It's part of their own franchise they're developing as kind of a tangential universe for Spider-Man characters. So it's definitely a little bit on the lukewarm side, but at the same time, I don't think theaters are really going to be too unhappy with a $40 million opening for a movie that's really set to kick off a busier period.
Sure. Now, Jake Gyllenhaal is starring in Ambulance. Tell us what's the story on that movie, and how do you think that'll perform?
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. This is kind of the sort of movie that I think would have been a massive blockbuster about 20 years ago during Michael Bay's kind of ascent to the action filmmaker that he is. It's entering a very challenging market right now. Male audiences have been a driver of a movie-going rebound over the past 2 years. That's certainly this movie's bread and butter, but it's also opening in a fairly competitive market, which is a rarity up until this point in the pandemic, because last week Morbius came out. This week we have several films opening and in the weeks ahead. But it's also an original movie. It's made for the big screen, so I think it's the type of original film that will probably find its audience over time, especially since it's had pretty good reviews. And among Michael Bay movies, it's one of the best reviewed in quite a while. So I think it'll be more of a slow burner than a big opener.
All right. Okay. So now the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie made more than $300 million. Now there's a sequel, and it's a family movie. So what are the chances it will equal or surpass the original movie at the box office?
The chances look pretty good at this point. The first movie was a huge hit when it came out. It was a breakout, but then a month later, the pandemic hit, theaters closed. So its box office run was stunted by all intents and purposes, but it found its audience at home with an early home release. And over the last 2 years, it's really proven to be a big family franchise on the rise. It's appealing to both video game fans and young kids, introducing itself to a new generation. And I think that's a great cross-section of the audience right now. What we've seen has been the fact that families have been the most cautious to go back, particularly women over 35. Mothers is really kind of a key demographic to look at for this kind of a movie. But we're at the tail end, knock on wood, of the pandemic, and this movie is not facing a big new variant in the news like was the case over the holidays when we had a few family movies open. So I think really everything is kind of lining up for this sequel. It's the first big family tentpole movie to come out during the pandemic, or at least the biggest so far anyway. And it bookends things a little bit. 2 years after, this was the last franchise movie to come out and attract families, and I think that pent-up demand will really benefit this sequel here. So I'm looking for a pretty big opening.
Okay, we will see how it does. Sean Robbins, senior analyst at Box Office Pro. Appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you.